5 years of marriage had blessed us with 4 beautiful children, and the quiet, steady joy of building the life we had always dreamed of. We were creating our own little world, one filled with laughter, faith, and hope. But a single pregnancy would change everything. A hidden tumor, a loss that would shatter our very foundations, and a single, venomous sentence spoken at a family gathering would burn every bridge we once thought was unshakable. So this is the part of my story I never thought I would have to tell. My wife, Alara, and I have been married for 5 wonderful years, and from the very beginning, we knew we wanted a large family. Guided by our Christian faith, we decided to wait until after our wedding before trying for children. Just 4 months later, our prayers were answered when she became pregnant, and we welcomed our first son, a perfect little boy. Our family grew quickly. We had our daughter just a year after our first child was born, and a year after that, we welcomed our second son. Finally, 3 years later, our second daughter, Lyra, completed our family. However, this 4th pregnancy was distinctly different from the others. Throughout the entire 9 months, Alara was in constant discomfort, complaining about relentless back pain and a deep, pervasive soreness that never seemed to subside. During the delivery, the physicians made a startling discovery: a tumor in her uterus that required immediate emergency surgery. Fortunately, Alara recovered remarkably well, but the doctors delivered the devastating news that we would be unable to have any more children. After learning this, she spiraled into a severe postpartum depression, convinced she was failing me, unable to provide the large family she knew I desired. I told her again and again that everything was perfect, that our family was complete, and I was the luckiest man alive. But despite my repeated assurances, her profound despair did not improve for several long months. She was originally meant to take only 4 months of maternity leave, but she elected to extend it to 8, needing more time to heal both physically and emotionally. Feeling overwhelmed, I chose to contact my brother Marcus, because we had always been exceptionally close. He has always been an excellent role model and a supportive older brother to me. However, his wife, Karina, has never seemed to like me or Alara for some unspoken reason. She is constantly, and quite obviously, comparing her children to ours and making passive-aggressive comments about how unhealthy our firstborn son's life is. Despite the fact that he is already a national chess master at a young age, she believes he should spend his time engaged in typical kid-related activities, rather than focusing on some esoteric board game. But we've already had this discussion with our son, and he adores chess. The fact that he is exceptionally good at it has no negative bearing on his daily life or happiness. She also likes to make sly comments about my daughters, but for the most part, neither I nor my wife seem to mind her remarks. My brother always claims it's just because she's pregnant and overly emotional. Marcus was incredibly helpful around the house during this difficult time, which made our lives much easier, and for that, I was grateful. Now, I adore my wife more than words can say. She is the best human being and the most loving mother on the entire globe. However, in the depths of her depression, she could be a little reckless with the youngsters. This never happened with our first few children, but I believe that having all of her complex feelings pent up during the second pregnancy caused her to become emotionally preoccupied and sometimes forgetful. On a few occasions, she forgot the stove was turned on, and I had to quietly switch it off to keep the house from burning down. But I never informed her that she needed to be more alert because I knew she was already dealing with an immense emotional burden. That's when the unthinkable occurred. While I was at work, my wife decided to take the children to the park for some fresh air. In a tragic accident, my daughter Lyra was hit by a car, and despite 6 harrowing hours of emergency surgery, she passed away. My wife has no clear recollection of what happened, a mercy, I suppose, and I do not wish to discuss the traumatic details of that day on this forum. However, I can say that was unequivocally the most horrific experience of my life. My wife and I have been navigating this unimaginable grief for the past 4 months, and even though we are hurting internally beyond measure, we must continue to care for our other children. This is also about the time that my brother's wife, Karina, invited the entire family to a pool party at their home. My wife and I believed it would be beneficial for our children to socialize with their relatives and find a moment of normalcy. My entire family was present, and they were all incredibly supportive of me and my wife, except for Karina. Everyone expressed their sympathies in a kind and sincere manner. According to my brother, it was simply that her emotions were out of whack due to her pregnancy. But my wife has never acted like that, even in her most difficult moments. Still, we all attempted to have fun, and the kids were clearly having a fantastic time in my brother's massive pool. That was until the youngsters started pulling pranks on us adults. While I was standing on the edge of the pool, the kids ganged up and pushed me into it. I thought this was humorous at first, but then they went too far and damaged my and my wife's brand new Tesla, leaving deep scratches along the door. We carefully and calmly explained to all of the children, including my nephews, why these types of pranks were unacceptable and dangerous. In the middle of my lecture, Karina interrupted and began shouting at me and my wife. She informed us that we had no grounds to speak to their children and that it was most likely all my children's fault. My wife was obviously not having it, claiming that the children were the ones who caused the damage and needed to understand the consequences. Things became increasingly tense, and other family members arrived to see what the chaos was all about. That's when my brother's wife dropped the bombshell. "Maybe this is why your daughter died." My wife burst into tears and ran inside, but I stayed and demanded an explanation. But what occurred next was even crazier. My brother Marcus instantly came in between us, his cheeks flushed as he gripped my shoulders firmly. "Caleb, calm down, she didn't mean it like that." When I tried to shove past him, his hold tightened. "You know how pregnancy hormones are. Karina's been having a really tough time lately." I looked at him in utter bewilderment. Karina stood behind him, her arms crossed over her large pregnant belly, her chin raised fiercely in defiance. The monotonous buzz of the pool filter filled the unexpected, heavy silence as our family members shifted awkwardly around us. "Pregnancy hormones," my voice broke. "She just said that about Lyra, about my dead daughter." "Look, I know it came out wrong," Marcus said, his hands still resting on my shoulders as if to placate a wild animal. "But you're both emotional right now. Let's just all take a breath and—" "Both emotional." I pushed his hands away, my own hands shaking. "My 3-year-old daughter is dead, Marcus, and your wife." "Just stop being so dramatic," Karina said, stepping around Marcus. "I'm sorry if you took it the wrong way, but you were yelling at my kids. What was I supposed to do?" My hands shook as I pointed to the severe scrapes on our Tesla's door. They damaged our car. We were explaining to all the kids why that's not okay. Oh, please, it's just a car. She rolled her eyes dismissively. You can afford to fix it, unlike some of us who actually have to budget for our growing families. My mother appeared at my elbow, her voice soft and placating. Caleb, honey, maybe we should all just cool off. This heat is getting to everyone. The heat. I looked around at my family, my supposed support system. My cousins avoided my gaze. My aunt meticulously studied her sandals. Uncle Thaddeus suddenly became fascinated by the intricate pattern of the pool tiles. She just used my daughter's death as a weapon, and you're blaming the heat. Nobody's blaming anything, Mom answered hurriedly. But Karina is 7 months pregnant. You remember how Alara was during her pregnancies. These things happen. These things happen. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. Alara never said anything so vile about someone's deceased child. Because Alara never had anyone discipline her perfect little angels, Karina spat back, her voice dripping with venom. Maybe if you two weren't so busy trying to be parents of the year, you'd have noticed what was going on. Karina, Marcus admonished weakly, but she persisted, on a roll now. What? I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. They act like their kids are so special. Chess champion this, honor roll that. Well, look where all that helicopter parenting got them. I lunged forward, but 3 sets of hands stopped me. My cousin Jake, Uncle Thaddeus, and even my younger brother Tom created a human barrier between us. Not worth it, man, Jake grumbled into my ear. Think of Alara. I spun around, frantically looking for my wife. The sliding glass door to the house remained ajar, the drapes still fluttering from her hasty exit. She'd overheard everything. I need to check on my wife, I muttered, pulling loose from their half-hearted clutches. Caleb, wait, Marcus called after me. We can work this out, it's family. I hesitated at the doorway, turning back to face him. Family doesn't do this, Marcus. Inside, I discovered Alara in the guest bathroom, sitting on the closed toilet lid, her face buried in her hands. Her shoulders shook with quiet, gut-wrenching sobs. I knelt in front of her and carefully moved her hands away from her tear-streaked face. Hey, I said quietly. I'm here. She said it was our fault. Alara's voice was a barely audible whisper. That Lyra died because of us. She's wrong, you know she's wrong. But what if... No, I cupped her face in my hands. No what-ifs. What happened to Lyra was an accident, a terrible, horrible accident. It was not your fault. It was never your fault. A soft knock at the door halted us. Alara, Caleb. It was my sister-in-law, Jenna, Marcus's younger sister. Can I come in? Alara nodded numbly, so I opened the door. Jenna slipped inside and closed the door quietly behind her. I'm so sorry, Jenna apologized quickly, her eyes full of genuine remorse. What Karina said was unforgivable. Then why is everyone out there busy forgiving it? I demanded an explanation. Jenna exhaled, a weary sound. Because they're cowards. Because it's easier to pressure you two to let it go than it is to confront her. She's pregnant, she stated bluntly. Apparently, that's a get-out-of-jail-free card for everything. It doesn't excuse this, Jenna replied firmly. And this isn't the first time she's done something like this. Alara and I both looked up at her, confused. Jenna bit her lip. Remember when cousin Isolde had her stillbirth? At the Christmas party that year, Karina made a comment about how maybe it was nature's way because Isolde was over 40. My stomach twisted into a knot. I'd never heard about this. Isolde and her husband never attended another family event after that. She cut off all contact with everyone who was present and didn't defend her. Jenna's voice was sour with old resentment, which was basically everyone. "Why didn't anyone tell us?" Alara inquired, her voice shaking. "Because Marcus always makes excuses. Because your mom thinks keeping the family together, no matter how toxic, is more important than anything else. Because everyone would rather enable a bully than risk a little drama at Sunday dinners." Another knock, more insistent this time. "Caleb, Alara." It was my mother again. "Everyone's worried. Can we please talk about this?" I gazed at Alara. Her expression had hardened into something I hadn't seen before, a cold, resolute anger. She stood, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Yes," she answered, her voice clear and strong. "Let's talk." We exited the bathroom to find the majority of the family congregated in Marcus's living room. Karina sat enthroned in the middle of the couch, Marcus's arm protectively around her, playing the part of the hurt, fragile, pregnant woman to perfection. The kids had been ushered away somewhere else, most likely to the game room. "Alara, sweetheart," my mother began, her tone oozing with forced sympathy. "We all understand you're going through a difficult time." "Stop." Alara raised her hand, silencing my mother mid-sentence. "Just stop. You all understand, really. Which one of you has buried a child?" Silence, thick and suffocating. "Which one of you has had to pick out a casket small enough for a 3-year-old? Which one of you has had to explain to her siblings why their little sister isn't ever coming home?" "Alara," Aunt Selene said softly, "we're not saying we understand completely, but—" "You're not saying anything," Alara exclaimed, her voice rising with righteous fury. "None of you said a single thing when she weaponized my baby's death. You just stood there, you let it happen, and now you want me to be the bigger person, to let it go for the sake of family unity." Uncle Thaddeus chimed in. "Sometimes we have to forgive for the sake of family." Alara laughed, but it was a sharp, fractured sound devoid of any humor. "Family? Family doesn't stand by while someone uses your dead child as ammunition in an argument about scratched paint. Family doesn't make excuses for cruelty. Family doesn't choose their own comfort over compassion for those who are grieving." "You're being overdramatic," Karina mumbled from the couch, picking at a loose thread on a cushion. Alara turned slowly, deliberately to face her. "Say that again." "I said you're being overdramatic. I'm sorry if what I said hurt your feelings, but—" Alara moved closer, her presence commanding the room. "If it hurt my feelings, you told me my daughter died because of my parenting. You used the worst pain I have ever experienced as a weapon because you were mad about your kids being disciplined." "I'm pregnant," Karina stated flatly, as if that explained and excused everything. "I've been pregnant 4 times, Alara responded, her voice dangerously low. "And never once did my hormones make me cruel. Never once did carrying a life inside me make me callous and dismissive about another life that was lost. Everyone handles pregnancy differently," Marcus added weakly. "Karina's been having a really hard time." "Stop," I instructed, finding my voice again. "Stop making excuses for her. Stop enabling her. Stop choosing her comfort over our pain." "I'm not choosing anyone," Marcus objected. "I'm just saying we can all move past this. We're family." "No," Alara replied gently, but with a finality that chilled the room. "We're not anymore." The room erupted. Everyone started talking at once, attempting to persuade us that we were overreacting, being overly sensitive, and threatening to break up the family. And through it all, Karina sat on the couch with a faint, contented grin on her face. "Enough!" Alara's yell hushed everyone. You want to know what breaks up a family? Standing by while someone attacks grieving parents, making excuses for cruelty, choosing to enable a bully rather than protect the vulnerable. She turned to face every single person in that room. 4 months ago, I lost my daughter. Every single day since then, I've woken up to a world that's missing her laugh, her smile, her little hands in mine. And I've survived it because I thought I had a family who understood that pain, who would protect that sacred grief from being weaponized. Her voice shattered on the last word. But you've all shown me today that keeping Karina comfortable is more important than keeping Lyra's memory respected. That avoiding a little conflict matters more than standing up for what is right. Ilara, please, my mother asked again, her voice pleading. Think of the cousins. The kids shouldn't have to suffer because the adults can't get along. The kids, Ilara asked, her eyes flashing with disbelief. You're worried about the kids now. Where was that concern when Karina said what she said in front of any child who might have been listening? What message does that send them when they see cruelty excused simply because the cruel person is pregnant? No one had an answer. Ilara walked over to where our children were now gathering by the door, having slipped back inside to see what all the fuss was about. She knelt down to their level. Get your things, she said gently. We're going home. But Mom, our oldest son argued, we were having fun. I know, baby, she whispered, but sometimes we have to leave situations that aren't healthy for us, even when it's hard. As we packed our belongings, the family continued to murmur and complain. Marcus followed us to the door. Caleb, come on. Don't do this. She didn't mean it. You know she didn't mean it. I turned to face my brother one last time. That's the problem, Marcus. I think she did mean it. And what's worse, I think you know she meant it too. But you'd rather we swallow our pain than you have to confront your wife's cruelty. That's not fair. Fair, I laughed cruelly. Was it fair when she used our daughter's death against us? Was it fair when every single person in that room chose to protect her instead of us? You're not choosing sides. Yes, you are. You chose. And you chose her. We loaded the children into the car in a tense silence. As I started the engine, my phone began to vibrate incessantly with texts. Ilara's phone, too. Family members were attempting to guilt us into returning, to apologize and let it go for the sake of family harmony. Ilara turned her phone off and stared out the window. They'll never understand, will they? No, I replied, my voice heavy. They won't. I can't go back there, Caleb, she muttered. I can't sit across from her at Christmas dinner and pretend she didn't say what she said. I can't watch everyone act normal while knowing they'd rather protect her than us. Then we won't, I replied simply. We'll make our own holidays, our own traditions. With people who actually care about us. Ilara leaned across the console and grabbed my hand. I'm sorry, your family. They're not my family, I clarified, squeezing her hand. Not anymore. Family doesn't do what they did today. As we drove away, I caught a glimpse of Marcus still standing in the doorway, Karina now alongside him, her hand on her belly, wearing that same delighted, triumphant grin. The rest of the family had most likely already moved on, convinced themselves that we'd calm down, that we'd eventually come around, and that family came first, even before principles. They were wrong. That night, long after the kids had fallen asleep, Ilara and I sat on our back terrace, the same spot where Lyra used to play with her toy tea set, feeding us pretend pastries and telling us complex stories about her stuffed animals. I miss her so much, Ilara confessed into the quiet night. I know, me too. And now we've lost them too, your whole family. I pulled her closer. We haven't lost anything worth keeping. Anyone who could stand by while you were attacked like that. Anyone who could make excuses for that kind of cruelty. They're not family. They're just people we happen to share DNA with. Your mom will probably call tomorrow, try to smooth things over. Probably. What will you say? I thought about it for a moment. That Karina crossed a line that can't be uncrossed, that they all had a choice between protecting grieving parents or enabling a bully, and they chose wrong, that we won't expose ourselves or our children to that kind of toxicity ever again. Alara nodded against my chest. They'll say we're breaking up the family. The family broke itself the moment they chose comfort over compassion. We sat quietly for a while, listening to the night sounds. A toddler's laugh drifted from a neighbor's yard, and we both tensed. Every child's laughter sounded like Lyra's now. Every little girl with dark, curly hair made our hearts skip a beat. I keep thinking about what Jenna said, Alara murmured. About Isolde, how she just cut everyone off after they didn't defend her. Yeah, I used to think that was so extreme. Now I get it. How can you sit across a table from people who watched you get attacked and did nothing? Who made excuses for your attacker? Who tried to make you the villain for not accepting the attack? You can't, I replied simply. My phone vibrated again. Another text. This one was from my mother. Please don't let this devastate our family. Think about what Lyra would want. I showed it to Alara. Her expression stiffened. She did not just invoke Lyra to manipulate us into forgiving this. She did. Alara took my phone and her fingers flew across the screen. Lyra would want her memory to be respected. Lyra would want her parents to be protected. Lyra would want people to confront bullies rather than enable them. Do not use my daughter's name to guilt us into accepting mistreatment. She pressed send before I could stop her. Not that I would have. I'm done, she stated, her voice firm. Done trying to keep the peace. Done swallowing my pain so others can be comfortable. Done pretending that family means accepting any and all treatment simply because of shared blood. Good, I answered, because I am too. The next morning brought a deluge of phone calls. I had put my phone on silent, but the screen was continuously lighting up with names I had grown up trusting. Dad, Aunt Selene, Uncle Thaddeus. Even relatives who hadn't been at the party were now involved. Having heard a carefully crafted version of events that undoubtedly painted us as unreasonable and explosive. Alara sat at the kitchen table, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly while our children ate their breakfast. Our oldest son kept staring between us, clearly sensing that something was deeply amiss, but unsure what had fundamentally changed in our world overnight. Are we going to see Uncle Marcus today? He asked with innocent hope. Alara's hand stilled on her mug. I placed my own mug down carefully. Not today, buddy, I replied. We're going to have a family day, just the 5 of us. But I was supposed to practice chess with cousin Sauron this weekend. The knife of that simple, innocent statement twisted in my gut. Sauron, Marcus's oldest, had been learning chess from our son. They had developed a genuine camaraderie over the game, 2 children unconcerned with the toxic politics of adults. We'll figure something else out, Alara murmured softly. Sometimes plans have to change. Our younger daughter looked up from her cereal. Is it because of what happened at the pool, when everyone was yelling? Children take in everything. We had tried to shield them, but they had heard enough. Sometimes adults disagree on very important things, I said thoughtfully. And sometimes we need to take space from each other to figure things out. Like when me and James fight and Mom makes us go to different rooms, my daughter inquired. Something like that, sweetheart. My phone vibrated again. This time it was Marcus. Caleb, we need to talk man to man without the wives. I can come by this afternoon. I showed Alara the text. She read it, then shook her head with a bitter smile. Without the wives, she reiterated, because clearly I'm the problem here. You are not the problem. You have never been the problem. I know that, but they don't. I typed back a firm response. There is nothing to discuss. Your wife crossed an unforgivable line. You defended her. That tells me everything I need to know. His response was immediate. You are being stubborn. She is pregnant and emotional. You can't abandon an entire family because of a single angry comment. One comment. As if those words weren't carefully selected weapons. As if the cruelty hadn't been premeditated. Block him, Alara stated gently. Please, I can't do this. I can't watch you have these same circular conversations. It hurts too much. I blocked Marcus's number. Then, one by one, I blocked the others who had stood by and watched. My mom's was the toughest. Her name appeared on my screen, and decades of memories were linked to those 3 letters. But she had made her choice yesterday. She had chosen the easier path over the right one. The kids finished breakfast and went about their typical Saturday morning activities. Our son to his chess computer, our younger daughter to her art supplies, our middle child to his books. The house was strangely quiet without the usual background hum of expectations for family gatherings, cousin playdates, and Sunday dinners. What do we tell people? Alara inquired, her voice low. Our friends, the kids' teachers, when they ask why the cousins don't play together anymore. The truth, that we've decided to distance ourselves from family members who don't respect us. They'll think we're overreacting. That we're those people who cut off family over petty drama. Let them think that. I reached across the table and took her hand. We know the truth. Using our dead daughter as a weapon isn't petty. Standing by while it happens isn't drama, it's betrayal. Alara's telephone rang. This time it was her mother. She had been at the party but had left early before the major confrontation. Alara gazed at the screen for a long moment before answering. Hi, Mom. I could hear her mother's voice on the other end, worried but measured. Alara's face cycled through a series of emotions as she listened. Yes, I heard what happened. No, Mom. She said our daughter died because of how we parent. I don't care if she's pregnant. Mom, stop. Her voice became harder, more resolute. If you're calling to tell me to forgive and forget, you can save your breath. What Karina said was unforgivable, and the fact that Caleb's entire family defended her tells me everything I need to know about their values. There was a pause. Her mother's voice rose slightly. Then they're wrong, Alara stated plainly. I'm not ruining the family. The family ruined itself when they chose to protect an abuser over the abused. Yes, I said abuser. Using someone's dead child against them is emotional abuse, Mom. Another long pause. I have to go, Alara said. I love you, but I won't discuss this anymore. Either you support us or you don't. But I will not be convinced that we are wrong for protecting ourselves. She hung up the phone and set it aside, her hands shaking slightly. She thinks we should try to reconcile for the children's sake. Everyone is suddenly very concerned about the children when it suits them, I added with a grim smile. Where was all that concern for our children when Karina attacked the memory of their dead sister? The weekend passed in a strange, surreal bubble. There were no family group texts discussing Sunday dinner plans. No cousins dropped by unannounced. Marcus did not show up with his tools to help with a household project I'd mentioned. The absence felt both liberating and suffocating. Monday presented new and immediate challenges. When I walked into my office, several coworkers gave me strange looks. Word travels fast in our interconnected world. Marcus and I worked in the same industry, though for different companies. We had a network of mutual professional contacts. My coworker, Lucian, approached me during lunch. "Hey man, heard there was some family drama this weekend." "You okay?" My jaw tightened. "What did you hear?" "Just that there was some big blow-up at Marcus's place, that you and Alara stormed out and are now refusing to talk to anyone." The narrative was already taking shape. We were the unreasonable ones who stormed out, not the bereaved parents who were viciously attacked. "There was an incident," I explained carefully. "Someone said something cruel and unforgivable about our daughter who passed away. We decided it was best for us to leave." Lucian's face shifted instantly from curiosity to horror. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was about." "I just heard you guys were being dramatic about some pregnancy hormones thing. Is that what Marcus is telling people?" He looked uneasy. "I mean, I heard it third hand. You know how these things get twisted." But I knew. Marcus was already in damage control mode, minimizing what had happened and casting us as the villains in a story where we were the victims. That evening, Alara greeted me at the door, her eyes red-rimmed. The school called. Karina showed up at pickup time for her kids and tried to take ours, too. Said there must have been a miscommunication about carpooling. My blood ran cold. What did the school do? They followed protocol. She wasn't on the authorized pickup list, so they didn't release them, but she made a huge scene. Told the office staff that we were having family troubles and were keeping the kids from their cousins out of spite. "This is an escalation," I stated, my mind racing. "She's trying to force contact through the kids. The principal has offered to meet with us tomorrow to address the matter." We spent the evening drafting emails and documenting everything that had happened. Mrs. Marable, the principal, was understanding when we explained the scenario in broad strokes. We didn't go into detail about Karina's specific remarks. Our grief was too personal to share with strangers. But we did make it clear that certain family members were no longer authorized for pickup under any circumstances. "I understand that family dynamics can be complicated," Mrs. Marable explained thoughtfully. "We'll make sure all staff are aware of the updated list and protocols." At 9:00 p.m. on Tuesday, our doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing on our doorstep, holding a casserole dish, the universal peace offering of Southern families. Alara looked at me, her expression unreadable. "Your choice." I opened the door but did not invite her inside. "Caleb," Mom began, her voice already thick with emotion. "This has gone on long enough. I brought your favorite." "Mom, stop." I held up my hand. "A casserole doesn't fix this. I'm not trying to fix it with food. I'm trying to get my son to talk to me. We talked on Saturday. You made your position crystal clear when you defended Karina. I wasn't defending her. I was trying to keep the peace. By sacrificing us." The words sounded harsher than I intended. "You were keeping the peace by telling us to accept someone using Lyra's death as a weapon against us." Mom's face crumpled. "That's not, I would never. But you did. You stood there while Karina said our daughter died because of our parenting, and your response was to remind us that she's pregnant, as if that excuses cruelty. She didn't mean." "Stop saying that," the words burst out of me. "Stop telling us what she meant. We heard what she said. We felt the intention behind it, and you are still standing here days later trying to convince us we misunderstood." Mom gripped the casserole dish so tightly her knuckles turned white. "I just want my family back together." Your family was never truly together, Mom. It was held together by people like Alara and me swallowing our hurt and keeping quiet, by people like Cousin Isolde disappearing rather than making waves, by victims staying silent so that abusers could stay comfortable. Karina isn't an abuser. She used our dead child as a weapon. What would you call that? A long silence stretched between us. Down the street, a dog barked, a normal neighborhood sound that felt bizarrely out of place in this moment of familial collapse. I should have spoken up, Mom finally said, her voice a whisper. The moment she said it, I should have told her it was wrong. Yes, you should have. But I can't change that now. All I can do is try to fix this going forward. There is nothing to fix, Mom. The damage is done, the trust is broken, and honestly, I don't think it was ever really there. This just revealed what was always true, that keeping up appearances matters more to you than protecting the vulnerable. She burst into tears then, real, racking sobs, not deceptive ones. I don't want to lose you, either of you, or my grandchildren. You're not losing us. You're experiencing the consequences of your choices. There is a difference. What does that mean? It means we'll still exist. We'll still be your son and daughter-in-law, but we won't pretend that Saturday didn't happen. We won't sit at family dinners with Karina. We won't expose our children to people who think their sister's death is fair game for cruel comments. So what? You'll just never come to family events again. Never let the cousins play together. The cousins can play together when their mother isn't present. Marcus can bring them here or meet us at neutral locations. But Karina is not welcome in our lives, and neither is anyone who continues to make excuses for her. Mom wiped her eyes. And if I can't accept that, then you're choosing her over us again. She left the casserole on the porch. I brought it inside after she drove away and stood in the kitchen, staring at it as if it might explode. Your mom makes a good casserole, Alara finally stated. She does. Doesn't make her a good person, though. No, it doesn't. We threw it away. Keeping it felt like accepting a bribe. Wednesday marked a new development. Jenna called while I was at work. I wanted you to know, Jenna said over the speakerphone that evening, that I told Mom and Marcus exactly what I think of them. That they're cowards who enable Karina because it's easier than standing up to her. Alara inquired, how did that go? About as well as you'd expect. Marcus accused me of trying to break up his marriage. Mom cried and said I was being divisive, the usual guilt trips. I'm sorry you're dealing with backlash for our sake, I told her. Don't be. Someone needed to say it. I'm just sorry I didn't say it sooner. Maybe if I'd spoken up for Isolde. We can't change the past, Alara explained gently. We can only choose better going forward. That's actually why I'm calling. Thanksgiving is coming up. I'm not going to Mom's if Karina will be there. I thought maybe we could do something together instead. You guys, me, maybe some other. Family refugees. Family refugees. The term was tragically appropriate. We'd like that very much, Alara responded. After Jenna hung up, we sat with a strange understanding that we were not just leaving something behind, but rebuilding. Instead of reconciling or returning to a harmful dynamic, we were creating something new, something smaller, something healthier. Thursday was our son's chess tournament. We briefly considered pulling him out because Marcus and his family frequently attended these events. But that felt like allowing Karina's malice to take even more away from our children. If they're there, we stay focused on our son, Alara explained as we parked. They do not exist for us. They were there. Of course they were. Marcus noticed us immediately and started to walk over, but I deliberately turned away and directed our family to the registration table. I could feel his presence behind us lingering, but I did not acknowledge it. "Caleb," he finally said, his voice low. "This is ridiculous. We're brothers." I continued filling out the forms. "You can't just pretend I don't exist." "Watch me," I stated without turning around. The kids are confused. Sauron doesn't understand why his cousin won't talk to him anymore. That nearly broke me. The children were innocent pawns in this, but I couldn't let him use them for manipulation. "Then maybe you should explain to Sauron that his mother said something unforgivable about his cousin's dead sister. That choices have consequences. That might be a good life lesson for him. You're punishing children for adult problems." Now I turned to face him. "No, Marcus. You're using children to avoid accountability for adult choices. There is a profound difference." Karina sat across the tournament hall, her pregnancy now very obvious. She caught my eye and had the audacity to wave, a small, friendly gesture as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't used our greatest loss as a weapon against us. Ilara's hand found mine. "Don't let her steal this day from our son." She was right. We chose seats far away from them and focused on our boy. He played brilliantly, as he always did when he was focused and calm. Chess was his escape and his joy. Karina had once called it unhealthy, but watching him analyze moves with laser-like focus, seeing the pride on his face when he executed a challenging strategy. This was a child in his element. He won his division. As we celebrated, I noticed that Marcus and his family had already left. Good. Friday afternoon, an unexpected ally emerged. My father called. My parents had been divorced for many years, and Dad resided several states away. He had always been generally absent from the family drama, something I used to resent, but now appreciated. "Heard through the grapevine there's been some family upheaval," he said in his quiet, understated way. I gave him the shortened version. "Jesus," he replied when I was finished. "She really said that about Lyra." "Yeah." "And your ex-wife defended her. Everyone defended her, Dad, or they stood by silently, which amounts to the same thing." He was silent for a long moment. "You know, this reminds me of why your mother and I really divorced." "What do you mean?" "I mean, the official story was we just grew apart. But the truth is I got tired of her need to keep the peace at any cost, even when the cost was the truth, even when the cost was justice. Even when the cost was protecting the people who needed it most. I never knew that. You were young. We tried to keep it civil for you kids, but there was an incident with her sister, your Aunt Selene. She was cruel to a waitress one time, really cruel, made the poor girl cry. And when I called her out on it, your mother made excuses, said Selene was having a hard time at work, that I should just let it go. That sounds familiar. It was a pattern. Anytime someone in her family did something wrong, there was an excuse, a reason to look the other way, a plea to keep the peace. I realized I was raising my children to either be bullies, who never faced consequences, or victims, who were taught they never deserved justice. Is that why you moved so far away? Partly. Distance helped. I couldn't change who they were, but I could control my exposure to it. Do you regret it, losing the family connections? Son, I gained far more than I lost. I gained integrity, self-respect, the ability to look at myself in the mirror without flinching. And I gained the knowledge that my children would see at least one parent stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. After we hung up, I sat with his words. My father, whom I had always regarded as distant, had been keeping his own peace all along. He had chosen principles over proximity, values over visits. That weekend, Alara and I took the kids to a new park, not the one where Lyra was hurt. We'd never go back there. This one was across town, unfamiliar territory. As they played, we discussed the future. The holidays are going to be hard, Alara stated. Thanksgiving, Christmas, all those traditions. We'll make new ones. It's not just that, it's the questions, from the kids' friends' parents, from our own friends. Everyone's going to want to know why we're not doing the big family gatherings anymore. We tell them the truth. That we're protecting our family from toxic dynamics. People don't like that answer. They want the pretty lie that we're just doing something small this year. Then they can be uncomfortable. We are done prioritizing other people's comfort over our own truth. Our daughter dashed up to us, breathless and happy. Mom, Dad, can we get ice cream? Of course, sweetheart. As we walked to the ice cream shop, our son fell in step beside me. Dad, are we ever going to see Uncle Marcus again? I had been dreading this question. I don't know, buddy. Right now, we need some space from them because of what Aunt Karina said about Lyra. The kids had heard everything. We had tried to protect them, but they had absorbed more than we knew. How do you know about that? I heard you and Mom talking, and Sauron texted me. He said his mom didn't mean it. What do you think? He was silent for a minute, thinking with the same quiet concentration he used in chess. I think when someone says something mean about someone who died, they mean it. Because you have to really, really want to hurt someone to use that. Out of the mouths of babes, I thought. You're very wise, I told him. So we're protecting ourselves. Yes. We're protecting ourselves and Lyra's memory. Good, he replied simply. Lyra deserves that. The ice cream shop was bustling with weekend families, normal people enjoying normal lives, seemingly unburdened by the weight of familial treachery. Or perhaps they each had their own buried wounds, relatives who used cruelty as currency. That night, after the kids had gone to sleep, Alara showed me her phone. She had been documenting everything in a private journal app. Every text, every manipulation attempt, every flying monkey sent to guilt us back into the fold. Why? I questioned. Because I know how this goes. Time passes, memories fade, and suddenly we're the ones who overreacted to a misunderstanding. I will not let them rewrite this narrative. She was right. The story was already being molded by people who hadn't even been there. We were the dramatic, angry, family-destroying ones, not the bereaved parents who had been attacked with their own daughter's death. Monday morning offered another surprise. A letter from Karina was delivered to my office, handwritten, which must have taken considerable effort given her predilection for text-based confrontation. Caleb, it read, I have been thinking about what happened at the pool party. I recognize that my statements may have been harsher than intended. This pregnancy has been very challenging, and I sometimes speak without thinking. I hope we can resolve this misunderstanding for the sake of family unity. Adult disagreements should not negatively impact the children. Karina. I read it 3 times, searching for an apology that wasn't there. May have been harsher than intended. Misunderstanding. Not, I am sorry for using your daughter's death to hurt you. Not, what I said was vile and wrong. I showed Alara that evening. She laughed bitterly. She's not sorry she said it. She's sorry there were consequences. Should I respond? No, any response just gives her ammunition. She'll twist whatever you say into more evidence that we're the unreasonable ones. So I did not respond, but I saved the letter. Documentation works both ways. Tuesday was tougher. Our middle child came home from school looking unhappy. There had been a family tree assignment, and the teacher had asked about grandparents and aunts and uncles. He had to explain that we didn't see them anymore. The teacher looked at me weird, he claimed, like I said something bad. You didn't say anything bad, Alara assured him. Sometimes families take breaks from each other. But why do we have to take a break? How do you explain to a child that adults can be cruel? That family can betray. That love doesn't always conquer toxicity. Sometimes people say very hurtful things, I said. And when they're not sorry, really sorry, it's okay to protect yourself from being hurt again. Like when Benny kept pushing me at recess and wouldn't stop, so I stopped playing with him. Exactly like that. He seemed satisfied with the explanation, but Alara and I exchanged a look over his head. The ripple effects would continue. Our children would face questions, judgment, and assumptions. All because we chose to shield them from people who saw their sister's death as acceptable ammunition. Marcus came to our door on Wednesday night. He just showed up on our porch around 8:00 p.m., unannounced, looking haggard. Please, he said as I opened the door, just 5 minutes. No, Marcus. Caleb, I'm begging you, this is destroying my family. Your wife destroyed our family when she used Lyra against us. You destroyed it when you defended her. She's pregnant. I started to close the door. Wait, okay, not the pregnancy excuse. I don't know what to do. Mom cries every day. Karina and I are fighting constantly. Jenna won't speak to us. The kids are confused and miserable. This isn't what I wanted. What did you think would happen, Marcus? That we would just swallow that pain and show up for Sunday dinner like nothing happened? I thought you'd understand. That family meant more than one moment of anger. One moment? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Marcus, your wife has been cruel to us for years. Little comments about our parenting, our children, our choices. We overlooked it all, but using our dead daughter as a weapon, that's not a moment of anger. That is calculated, intentional cruelty. She was upset about the car. Stop, just stop. If you are here to make more excuses, then you can leave. If you are here to genuinely apologize and acknowledge what happened, we can talk. But I will not stand here and listen to you minimize what she did to us. He just stood there, his mouth opening and closing as if he wanted to say the right thing but couldn't find the words. Because saying the right thing would mean admitting his wife was cruel, that he had prioritized her nastiness over our grief, that he had failed as a brother in the moment we needed him most. I can't, he admitted finally. I can't say she was wrong. She's my wife. And I was your brother. Alara was your sister-in-law. Lyra was your niece. But you've made it clear where your loyalties lie. I closed the door. Through the window, I saw him linger there for another minute before retreating to his car. A part of me wanted to call him back, a flood of memories of teaching him to ride a bike, of being his best man, of celebrating the births of his children. But the bigger part, the part that was a husband and a father first, knew that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Thursday brought a call from an unexpected source. Isolde, the cousin who had lost her baby and vanished from family gatherings after Karina's cruelty. Jenna gave me your number, she explained. I hope that's okay. Of course. I heard what happened, what Karina said. I am so sorry. Thank you. I wanted to call because I know what you're going through. Not the loss. I can't imagine losing a child who'd lived and laughed and been part of your world for years. But the family betrayal, that I understand. How did you handle it? Badly at first. I kept waiting for someone to reach out, to say they were sorry for not defending me, to acknowledge what she said was wrong. But they never did. Because acknowledging it would mean admitting they had failed, and that family unity they prized so much, it's built on the silence of people like us. Do you regret cutting them off? No, I regret that it was necessary. I regret that they chose comfort over compassion, but cutting them off, that saved me. It let me grieve without having to pretend the people who enabled my attacker were safe. People think we're overreacting. People who haven't been through it always think that. They don't understand that some wounds are too deep for forgiveness, that some betrayals reveal who people truly are. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. After we hung up, I found Alara in Lyra's room. We had left it mostly untouched, unable to face the task of packing up her things. She was sitting on the floor, cradling one of Lyra's stuffed animals. Isolde called, I explained, sitting down beside her. Yeah, I told her about our conversation. Alara listened, silent tears falling softly down her cheeks. She's right, Alara finally said, about the family unity being built on silence. How many times did we bite our tongues when Karina said something cruel? How many little comments did we just let slide to keep the peace? Too many. And it escalated. Because that's what happens when cruelty goes unchecked. It grows. We didn't know it would lead to this. No, I replied, but we knew it was wrong, and we stayed quiet anyway, just like everyone else is staying quiet now. Friday was Halloween. We had always had a huge family trick-or-treat party with all the cousins in coordinating costumes. This year, it was just us. The kids didn't complain, but I caught our oldest son looking at pictures from last year on his phone. A picture of all of them together. Lyra, dressed as a tiny witch, was beaming at the camera. "You okay, buddy?" I inquired. "Yeah, just remembering. It's okay to miss how things were. Do you think it'll ever be normal again? I think we'll find a new normal, a different normal but still a good one without them, with people who actually care about us, who would never use Lyra's memory to hurt us." He nodded and put his phone away. "I think Lyra would understand why we're protecting her memory." I think so, too. That night, as we walked through our neighborhood, I saw other families all together, taking pictures and laughing. Were they really as happy as they seemed? Or were they, too, hiding wounds, staying silent to keep the peace, enabling cruelty in the name of family unity? Our phones were blessedly silent. Maybe the family had finally accepted our boundaries, or maybe they were just plotting their next move. Either way, tonight was just about us. Our small family of 5 that should have been 6, making our own memories and keeping our own peace. Saturday morning, the peace was disturbed. Alara woke me up early, her face pale. "Look at this." She showed me her Facebook feed. Karina had written a long, dramatic status update about family rifts, the importance of forgiveness, and protecting children from adult issues. She didn't mention us by name, but the comments made it clear who she was referring to. "Some people hold grudges over the smallest things," one aunt commented. "Pregnancy is so difficult," another wrote. "People should be more understanding. Breaking apart a family over words is just awful." A friend of Marcus's added. The story was being solidified. We were the grudge holders, the family breakers, the ones who couldn't overlook a pregnant woman's minor misstep. Should I respond? Alara inquired. "No, let them show themselves. Let everyone see who is willing to co-sign on using a dead child as a weapon." But it hurt. Seeing friends we'd spent holidays with, whose children had played with ours, reduce our profound grief to pettiness. Seeing them rally around Karina while we mourned not only Lyra but the family we thought we had. My telephone rang. It was Jenna. "Did you see it?" she asked without preamble. "Yeah." I commented, told them exactly what Karina said, used Lyra's name and everything. Let them defend that publicly. "Jenna, you don't have to fight our battles." "Yes, I do." Because someone should have fought for Isolde. And someone should have fought for you the second Karina opened her mouth. Silence is what lets this fester. Jenna's comment was deleted and she was blocked within an hour, but not before it had been seen by dozens of people. My phone started vibrating with texts from more distant family members who hadn't heard the full story. "Is that really what she said?" one cousin inquired. "Why didn't someone tell me?" wrote another. The narrative was unraveling, but Karina was in full damage control mode. A new post appeared, this time about lies, exaggerations, and people trying to ruin a pregnant woman's reputation. "She's really doubling down," Alara observed. "She has to." Admitting what she really said would mean admitting she's the villain in this story. But the damage to their narrative had been done. Some family members who had previously been staunch supporters of peace began to reach out quietly, not to fully support us, that would take too much courage, but to express concern about what had really happened. We did not engage. Their sudden interest in the truth after publicly supporting Karina felt disingenuous. Where was this concern when we were being attacked? Where were these questions when we were being painted as the unreasonable ones? Sunday came, and there was no family dinner. Instead, we spent a quiet morning at home. The kids made pancakes. We played board games. It was peaceful in a way our family gatherings had never been, without the underlying tension of waiting for Karina's next cutting remark. "I don't miss it," Alara stated abruptly, watching our children laugh during a game. "I thought I would, but I don't. It was always performative, always about maintaining an image rather than genuinely caring for each other." She was right. How many Sunday dinners had we endured Karina's barbs while everyone else pretended not to hear? How many times had we comforted our children after she ridiculed their interests, their accomplishments, their very being? All in the name of a family togetherness that protected the cruel and silenced the hurt. That evening, my mother called again. This time I answered. "I saw Jenna's comment before it was deleted," she said without preamble. "Is that really what Karina said about Lyra?" "Yes." Silence. I didn't hear the exact words. I just heard shouting and came over. By the time I got there, you were already leaving and Marcus was saying it was pregnancy hormones. And you believed him. Without asking us, without checking to see what had actually happened. I wanted to keep the peace. You wanted to avoid conflict. There's a difference, Mom. Keeping the peace would have meant addressing the person who broke it. You chose to pressure the victims instead because we were more likely to comply. That's not. I didn't think of it that way. Of course you didn't, because thinking of it that way would mean acknowledging your role in enabling abuse. Abuse is a strong word. What would you call using your dead grandchild as a weapon against her grieving parents? Once again, silence. "I failed you," she confessed finally. "I failed you, and I failed Lyra's memory." "Yes, you did. Can you forgive me?" "Forgiveness isn't the issue right now, Mom. The issue is trust. You showed us that when we are at our most vulnerable, you will not protect us. That when someone attacks us with our deepest pain, you will make excuses for them. How do we trust you after that?" "I don't know," she said, her voice small. "But I want to try. I want to do better." "Then start by holding Karina accountable publicly. Stop letting her control the narrative. Stop letting her paint us as the villains for protecting ourselves. Marcus will be furious." Then Marcus can be furious. His comfort is not more important than our pain. I need to think about this. You do that. But while you're thinking, remember that every day you stay silent is another day you choose them over us. After I hung up, Alara looked at me with a sliver of hope. "Do you think she'll actually do it?" "I don't know. Speaking up now after publicly supporting them would mean admitting she was wrong. That's hard for anyone, especially someone who has spent their life avoiding conflict. But at least she's finally hearing us. Maybe. Or maybe she's just trying to find a way to get us back in the fold without actually changing anything. Time would tell. Monday morning brought proof that Mom had made her decision. A Facebook post, carefully worded but clear. I have been thinking a lot about family dynamics and my role in them. I realize that I have sometimes prioritized keeping the peace over protecting people. When someone says something cruel, especially about a deceased child, it is not because of hormones or stress. It is cruelty, and those who make excuses for it are complicit. I apologize to those I have failed with my silence. I promise to do better. She didn't use names, but everyone knew. The comment section exploded. Marcus accused her of betraying the family. Karina called her a troublemaker. Several relatives expressed shock that she would air family business so publicly. But others, the quiet ones who had been silenced for years, started to speak up. Stories came out, a pattern of behavior from Karina that the family had long ignored. "It's like a dam broke," Alara said, scrolling through the comments. "All these people who have been hurt by her are finally feeling safe to speak up." My telephone rang. "Marcus," I said, "your mother is destroying our family," he stated without a greeting. "Karina destroyed our family." Mom's just finally acknowledging it. "This is your fault, you and Alara making a big deal out of nothing. Using our dead daughter as a weapon is nothing." She didn't mean. I hung up. We were past the point of these circular conversations. But the family's reckoning was continuing online. Jenna called that evening almost giddy. "Did you see Aunt Celine's comment? She admitted Karina made her daughter cry at her own wedding by criticizing her dress." And Uncle Thaddeus's wife finally told the story about Karina announcing her own pregnancy at their daughter's graduation dinner. "It's all coming out." "Good," Alara replied. "Let them all see what they've been enabling." But with the revelations came retaliation. Karina posted her own status, painting herself as the victim of a coordinated attack. Marcus defended her, claiming people were ganging up on a pregnant woman. They announced they would be taking a mental health break from social media and family events. "Classic," Alara mumbled. "Play the victim when accountability comes knocking." But something had shifted. The family dynamic that had protected Karina for years was unraveling. People were asking themselves why they had stayed silent, why they had valued her comfort over the pain of others. Tuesday brought an unexpected visitor. Aunt Celine stood on our porch, looking nervous but determined. "I owe you an apology," she said as I let her in. "When Karina said what she said about Lyra, I should have spoken up. I should have protected you both." Alara studied her. "Why didn't you?" "Because I'm a coward," Celine explained simply. "Because speaking up would have made me her next target. Because it was easier to let you bear the weight of her cruelty than to share it. And now I see that my silence made me complicit. That every time I let her cruelty slide, I enabled the next instance. I'm sorry, I am so deeply sorry." It was the first genuine apology we had received. Not qualified, not excused, just an admission of failure and regret. "I appreciate that," Alara responded thoughtfully. "But you have to understand why we can't just go back to how things were. I do, trust is earned, and I haven't earned yours. But I wanted you to know that some of us see it now. We see what we allowed to happen, and we're sorry." After she left, Alara and I sat with the strangeness of it all. The family wall of silence, so long unbreakable, was beginning to crack. "It doesn't change what happened," Alara stated. "It doesn't bring Lyra back or erase the fact that her memory was desecrated. No, but maybe it prevents the next Isolde, the next us." Wednesday was quiet. The social media storm had died down, leaving an unsettling calm. Sides had been chosen, lines had been drawn. The family, which had once gathered for every occasion, was now fractured into camps. On Thursday, Jenna brought news. "Marcus and Karina are hosting Thanksgiving," making a big show of keeping traditions alive and not letting division win. "It's clearly a loyalty test." "Let them test," I said. "We already know where we stand." "Mom's not going," Jenna added. "Neither are Selene or Thaddeus's family. Looks like their guest list is getting smaller." A part of me felt a pang of sadness, remembering a younger Marcus teaching me to throw a football, being there when each of my children was born. But the bigger part, the part that had watched him choose his wife's cruelty over our grief, felt nothing but resolve. Friday was the school's Thanksgiving pageant. We sat in the auditorium and watched our children sing songs about gratitude and family. The irony was not lost on me. "Family isn't always blood," Alara said quietly, watching our son help a classmate with their costume. "Sometimes it's the people who choose to protect you instead of hurt you." She was right. As we were losing the family we were born and married into, we were finding a new one. Friends who checked in daily. Parents from school who had heard what happened and offered support without prying. Jenna called every day just to make sure we were okay. That weekend, we started planning our own Thanksgiving. Jenna would be there, and she was bringing Isolde and her family. A few friends who had nowhere else to go. A motley crew of people who understood that family was about more than shared DNA. "It'll be different," Alara said, making lists. "Different isn't always bad. No, different might actually be better." The kids were adjusting, too. Our oldest had started volunteering to teach chess to younger kids at the community center. "Kids who actually want to learn," he stated with a determined look. Our middle child had joined a book club. Our youngest was excelling in art class. They were thriving, free from Karina's constant, subtle criticisms and the stress of family gatherings where they had to walk on eggshells. "I think Lyra would like this," our daughter commented one evening while working on her art. "She always said Aunt Karina was mean. Maybe she's happy we don't have to see her anymore." Again, from the mouths of babes. As November marched on toward Thanksgiving, the family schism deepened. Marcus and Karina surrounded themselves with the relatives who were still committed to maintaining peace at any cost. We built something new with the people who understood that some costs are too high. Mom called the night before Thanksgiving. "I wanted you to know I'm not going to Marcus's," she told me. "I'll be alone, but I can't sit at a table with someone who used my granddaughter's death as a weapon." "You don't have to be alone," I found myself saying. "We have room." Alara looked at me, surprised but not disapproving. "Are you sure?" Mom's voice was small. "I'm sure that Lyra would want her grandmother to have somewhere to go on Thanksgiving. I'm sure that choosing the right thing, even late, still matters. But I'm also sure that this isn't a clean slate. It's a chance to do better." "I understand. Thank you." After I hung up, Alara reached out and took my hand. That was a kind thing to do. She's trying. Late, but she's trying. And maybe showing her what a real family looks like will help her understand what we lost when she stayed silent. Maybe. Thanksgiving Day arrived, crisp and clear. Our house was filled with the smells of cooking and the sounds of a chosen family. Jenna arrived early to help cook. Isolde brought her kids, who played happily with ours. Friends filled the empty spaces, bringing warmth born of choice, not obligation. Mom arrived last, carrying her famous sweet potato casserole, looking nervous. "Thank you for having me," she said quietly. "Thank you for choosing to be here," Alara replied, "for choosing us." The dinner was different from years past, smaller in some ways but so much richer. The conversation flowed freely without the underlying tension of waiting for Karina's next jab. The children laughed without restraint. People shared stories without fear of judgment. "This is nice," Mom commented at one point, looking around the table. "Different but nice." "Different can be good," our son explained. "Like in chess. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a piece to win the game." "What piece did we sacrifice?" our daughter inquired. "The one that was hurting us," he stated plainly. Mom's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry I didn't protect you, all of you, from that hurt." "We know," Alara replied, "but you're here now, that matters." As the evening wound down and the guests began to leave, Mom pulled me aside. "Marcus called earlier while I was driving here. He wanted to know how I could choose you over him." "What did you tell him?" "That I wasn't choosing sides. I was choosing what was right. He didn't understand." "He might never understand." "I know. And that breaks my heart, but not as much as knowing I failed you when you needed me most." She left with promises to do better, to be better. Time would tell if she could follow through. That night, as Alara and I were cleaning up, she paused to look at Lyra's portrait on the mantel. "I think she would have liked today," she said. "A house full of people who actually care about each other. No mean comments about her art, no comparisons to her cousins, just love. Just love." We had lost a family, the kind you're born into, the kind you're supposed to be able to count on. But we had gained something more. The kind of family you choose. The kind that shows up not because they have to, but because they want to. The kind that would never use a child's death as a weapon. The kind that understood that some wounds don't heal just because someone demands forgiveness. The kind that knew that sometimes protection looks like distance and boundaries. As we were getting ready for bed, Alara's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unfamiliar number. "Hello, Alara. This is Sauron. I know my mom said something very bad about Lyra. I am sorry. I miss playing with my cousins. Maybe when I'm older we can be friends again." Alara showed me the text, tears welling in her eyes. "Marcus must not know he sent this," I said. "What do I say?" "The truth, that we miss him too, that none of this is his fault, and that maybe someday when he's older and can choose for himself, we'd love to see him again." She typed a careful, gentle response, because the children should not bear the weight of their parents' sins, because Sauron was also a victim here, of a mother who used cruelty as currency and a father who enabled it. "Sent," she whispered before turning off her phone. "I can't handle any more emotion tonight." As we lay in bed, the house quiet except for the sound of our children sleeping safely down the hall, I reflected on the journey from the pool party to this moment. The ache was still there. The loss of Lyra was compounded by the loss of a family we thought we could count on. But there was something else, too. Peace. The peace of knowing we had chosen protection over politeness. The peace of knowing Lyra's memory would no longer be weaponized. The peace of knowing our surviving children would grow up understanding that some things are more important than keeping cruel people comfortable. "I love you," I whispered to Alara in the dark. "I love you too," she said. "And I love the family we're building, the one Lyra would be proud of." The weekend following Thanksgiving brought an unexpected development. Marcus's oldest son, Sauron, showed up at our house on Saturday morning, his bike propped against the porch railing. Alara and I exchanged startled looks through the window. Sauron. I opened the door, scanning the street for Marcus's car. Does your dad know you're here? The 13-year-old shuffled his feet nervously. He thinks I'm at the library, but I had to come. I need to talk to my cousin about something for the chess tournament next week. Elara appeared beside me, her expression troubled. The boy wasn't to blame for his mother's cruelty, but having him here felt like crossing a boundary we had fought so hard to draw. Sauron, we can't, I began. Please, he interjected, his voice cracking. I know what my mom said about Lyra. Dad told me I wasn't allowed to talk to you guys anymore, but it's not fair. None of this is fair. Our son, hearing the doorbell, came running. He stopped short when he saw his cousin, a mixture of hope and doubt on his face. Can Sauron come in? He asked quietly. Just for a little bit. Elara and I had a silent conversation with our eyes. Finally, she nodded. 15 minutes. Then you need to go home before your parents realize where you are. The boys disappeared upstairs. We paced in the kitchen. This is going to cause trouble. I know Marcus will accuse us of undermining his parenting. Probably. 20 minutes later, Sauron came back downstairs looking lighter than when he had arrived. Thank you, he said simply. I'm sorry about everything. You have nothing to be sorry for, Elara reminded him gently. None of this is your fault. He left, and we held our breath, bracing for the inevitable explosion. It came 3 hours later. Marcus's car screeched into our driveway, and he was on our doorstep before the engine had fully died. How dare you? He snarled as I opened the door. Going behind my back, encouraging my son to disobey me. We didn't encourage anything, I said calmly. He showed up on his own. We let him talk to his cousin for 20 minutes, that's all. You had no right. To do what? Let two kids maintain a friendship despite the problems of adults. You're right, how terrible of us. Karina got out of the car, her pregnancy in its final stages. This is parental alienation, she said dramatically. We could call the police. Elara came to stand beside me. Please do. I'd love to explain to them exactly why you're trying to prevent cousins from speaking to each other. Maybe we can mention what you said about our dead daughter while we're at it. Karina's face reddened. You're poisoning him against us. We didn't mention you at all, Elara remarked. Believe it or not, everything isn't about you. Everything has been about you since your kid died, Karina shrieked. Poor Elara, poor Caleb, everyone walking on eggshells around you. Get off my property, I said, my voice dangerously low. Now, Marcus grabbed Karina's arm. Let's go. No. I am tired of them playing the victim. Their daughter died because Elara wasn't watching her properly, and somehow that's everyone else's problem. Elara moved so fast I barely saw it happen. Not to strike Karina, she would never give her that satisfaction, but to pull out her phone and hit record. Say it again, Elara repeated, her voice dead calm. Tell everyone how our daughter's death is our fault. Let everyone see exactly who you are. Karina realized her mistake. The few neighbors who were outside had stopped to watch. Mrs. Alden from across the street had her own phone out. Turn that off, Marcus commanded. It's a public street, Mrs. Alden called out. And you're making quite a scene. Marcus hauled Karina back to the car, but she couldn't resist one last shot. This is why nobody wants you at family events anymore. You're exhausting. Nobody wants us, Elara chuckled sharply. You should check your Thanksgiving guest list again. They peeled away, leaving tire marks on our driveway. Mrs. Alden walked over, shaking her head. I recorded the whole thing, she said. In case you need it, that woman is vile. Within hours, the video was all over social media. We didn't post it. We had no interest in the drama, but Mrs. Alden's visiting daughter did. The court of public opinion was swift and merciless. Karina's carefully constructed image of the victimized pregnant woman shattered as people watched her abuse bereaved parents on their own driveway. Mom called that evening. "I saw the video. I am so sorry you had to go through that." "Sauron just wanted to see his cousin," I explained wearily. "I know. Marcus called me ranting about boundaries and respect. I told him the only disrespect I saw was coming from his wife." "How did that go?" "He hung up on me, but I'm done enabling him. Watching that video, seeing how she spoke to you both, I am ashamed I ever defended her." A month later, at the grief support group we had started attending, we found solace among other parents who understood the weight of loss. As we took our usual seats on Sunday, a familiar face caught my eye. Isolde was sitting in the corner, clutching a box of tissues. After the meeting, she approached us. "I hope it's okay I'm here." "Of course," Alara said. "I know it's been years since my loss, but seeing you two stand up to the family, it brought everything back." "Grief doesn't have an expiration date," Alara said, hugging her. "I've been in therapy," she confided, "working through not just the loss but the betrayal. My therapist says the family trauma might actually be harder to process than the grief itself." "Because death is final," I said. "But betrayal is a choice people keep making." Jenna texted some news that afternoon. Marcus and Karina's baby had arrived early, a little girl. The family group chats were alight with the usual congratulations and hospital pictures. "Do we say anything?" Alara asked, looking at the announcement. "We wish the baby health and happiness," I decided. "The child is not responsible for her parents." We sent a simple, anonymous card to the hospital. No return address. It was the decent thing to do, even for people who didn't deserve decency. Monday's mail brought a surprise. A letter from Sauron. His handwriting was neat and careful. "Dear Uncle Caleb and Aunt Alara, thank you for letting me visit. I know it caused trouble and I'm sorry. Mom and Dad are really mad, but I don't care. You were always nice to me and I miss our family. I think about Lyra a lot. She was really funny and always shared her candy with me. I'm sorry my mom says mean things. I told her it was wrong, but she said I didn't understand because I'm a kid. But I think kids understand better sometimes. Love, Sauron." Alara cried as she read it. "That poor boy. He'll be okay," I said. "He sees the truth. That's more than a lot of the adults in our family can say." Tuesday was the anniversary of Lyra's first day of preschool. We had been dreading it, another milestone she would never reach. Instead of staying home and drowning in sadness, we took her favorite flowers to the children's hospital where she had passed. The nurses remembered us. "We think of her often," one said with a sad smile. "Such a bright light." We made a donation of toys in Lyra's memory, watched sick children's faces light up, and found a strange peace in bringing joy to the place she had left us. Wednesday afternoon, our son won the regional chess tournament. As he held up his trophy and scanned the crowd, I saw the exact moment he remembered Sauron wasn't there. His smile faltered for a second, and it broke my heart. "Sauron would be so proud," I told him later. "I know," he said. "I just wish he could be here." Sometimes loving someone means accepting you can't be in their life the way you want to, Alara said with a sad smile. But it doesn't make the love any less real. Thursday brought another confrontation. Karina's mother, who had been out of state during the pool party incident, showed up at Alara's office. Security had to escort her out after she created a scene, screaming about false accusations and ruining the family. "She actually said we made the whole thing up," Alara told me that evening. That Karina would never say something so cruel, and we have multiple witnesses who are all lying. Apparently, we've either brainwashed them, bribed them, or both. The mental gymnastics were impressive. Friday was quiet. Too quiet. The quiet before whatever storm Marcus and Karina were planning next. We had learned their pattern. When caught in wrongdoing, they would retreat, regroup, and attack from a different angle. Saturday morning, the new angle arrived. A process server knocked on our door and handed me an envelope. Marcus and Karina were suing us for slander, emotional distress, and alienation of familial affection. They're actually suing us, Alara said, staring at the papers in disbelief. For telling the truth about what she said, I mumbled, reading the complaint. They're claiming the video Mrs. Alden posted has damaged Karina's reputation and caused her to have severe postpartum depression. Her reputation was damaged by her own mouth, Alara stated. We spent the weekend consulting with lawyers, gathering our documentation, and preparing for a war we never wanted. The family group text exploded with drama. Some sided with Marcus and Karina, saying we had taken things too far. Others were appalled that they had involved lawyers in a family matter. Jenna called on Sunday night. Mom's beside herself. She's threatening to testify on your behalf about all the things Karina has said over the years. She'd do that. She's furious. Said if Marcus wants to play legal games, she's got a list of witnesses to Karina's cruelty going back a decade. On Monday, we met with our lawyer, Maribel, a sharp woman who specialized in family disputes. She reviewed everything, the videos, the texts, the journal Alara had been keeping. They don't have a case, Maribel declared flatly. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation, and you have multiple witnesses who heard her say those exact words about your daughter. If anything, you have grounds for a harassment suit against them. We don't want to sue anyone, Alara said. We just want to be left alone. Sometimes the best defense is a strong offense, Maribel said, but that's your choice. Tuesday's mail brought letters from family members, some supportive, some not. Uncle Thaddeus wrote that while he didn't agree with the lawsuit, he thought we should have handled things more quietly. Aunt Selene wrote a long letter detailing every hurtful thing Karina had ever said to her and offered to testify if needed. It's tearing the whole family apart, Alara said as she read them. It was already torn, I told her. This just made the cracks visible. Wednesday, our kids came home from school with questions. Sauron had apparently been pulled from every single activity he shared with any of our kids' classmates, chess club, science fair team, anything that might put him in contact with his cousins. Why can't we see Sauron anymore? Our daughter asked. Did we do something wrong? No, sweetheart. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt kids, even when the kids did nothing wrong. That's stupid, she said with the clarity only a child possesses. Yes, Alara agreed, it is. Thursday brought an unexpected visitor. Marcus arrived alone, looking haggard. I almost didn't open the door, but something in his eyes made me pause. I'm not here to fight, he said immediately. I need to talk, please. Against my better judgment, I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me. You're suing us, Marcus. What could we possibly have to talk about? That was Karina's idea, her mother's, really. They're convinced you're out to destroy our family. We're trying to protect ours. He sagged against the porch railing. Sauron won't talk to me. He says I'm a coward for not standing up to his mother. My own son thinks I'm a coward. Aren't you? The words hung in the air between us. Marcus flinched but didn't deny it. I know what she said was wrong, he confessed, his voice low. I knew it the second the words left her mouth, but she's my wife, the mother of my children. What was I supposed to do? Protect the victims instead of the bully, tell the truth instead of making excuses, choose what was right over what was easy. Easy, he said, laughing bitterly. You think any of this has been easy? My marriage is falling apart, my son hates me, my mother barely speaks to me, the baby won't stop crying, and Karina just gets angrier and angrier. That is not our fault, Marcus. I know, he said, and for the first time since that pool party, he sounded like my brother again. I know none of this is your fault. Lyra dying wasn't your fault. Karina saying what she said wasn't your fault. Me being too weak to stop her. That's on me. Then drop the lawsuit. I can't. Karina's mother hired the lawyer. If I back out now... He took a deep breath. If you back out now, what? Karina will be angry. She's already angry. You'll have marital problems. You already have them. You'll have to choose between your wife and your integrity. That choice was already made at the pool party. He left without another word, but I saw him sit in his car for a full 10 minutes before driving away. Alara had watched through the window. Do you think he'll do the right thing? No, I answered honestly. But at least he finally knows what the right thing is. That's more than I expected. Friday, our lawyer called. They want to settle. They'll drop the lawsuit in exchange for a mutual no-contact agreement. We're already not in contact, Alara noted. This would make it legally binding. Neither party to contact the other, including through third parties or social media. Violation would have legal consequences. What about the kids, Sauron? The agreement would include the minors, until they turn 18. Alara and I talked about it that evening. It felt like a defeat, letting them use the legal system to enforce what their cruelty had already caused. But it also felt like protection, a paper shield against future harassment. Lyra would want us to be safe, Alara said finally. Even if it means making it official that her cousins can't see each other anymore. Saturday, we signed the papers. It was over. The family that had once gathered for every holiday, birthday, and barbecue was now legally forbidden from speaking to one another. The lawyer mentioned these agreements rarely hold up if both couples agree to reconcile, but we knew that would never happen. Some bridges, once burned, leave too much ash to rebuild. Sunday was Lyra's birthday. She would have been 5. We went to her gravesite as a family, bringing her favorite flowers and new toys that we later donated to the hospital. Our surviving children had written her letters, which they read aloud, their voices trembling but steady. I got an A on my science project, our middle child announced. You would have liked it. It was about butterflies. I won the chess tournament, our oldest said. I used that move you always said looked like a horsey dance. I painted you a picture, our youngest said, placing a brightly colored canvas against the headstone. It's our family, and you're the son because you're watching over us. Alara and I held each other as our children spoke to their sister, telling her about their lives, how much they missed her, and how they would always remember her. It was both heartbreaking and healing. As we were driving home that evening, our son said, "Do you think Lyra knows about everything that happened?" "I think Lyra knows we protected her memory," Alara said. "That when someone tried to use her against us, we stood up and said no. That's what matters. And we found out who really loves us," our daughter added with the startling wisdom that children can possess. "The people who stayed." Monday morning began with the normal routine. School lunches, work emails, the rhythm of life moving forward despite the legal documents that officially severed our extended family. But something had shifted. The constant dread, the waiting for the next attack had lifted. The legal agreement, as cold and official as it was, had brought a sense of finality. "It's really over," Alara said as we watched the kids get on the school bus. "The conflict is over," I corrected her. "The grief, the growth, the healing, that continues. But without them making it harder." "Without them making it harder," I agreed. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Jenna. Mom was planning a small Christmas gathering for the family who chose love over cruelty. Isolde would be there, along with a few cousins who had quietly supported us. The family we were building from the ashes of the one we lost. As I got ready to leave for work, I thought of Sauron's letter, tucked away in my desk drawer, of Marcus's moment of honesty on our porch, of Alara's journal, filled with evidence of a battle we had won by refusing to fight on their terms, of my mother finally finding her courage, too late to prevent the pain, but not too late to prevent future harm. Some stories don't end with reconciliation. Sometimes the happy ending is the separation, the boundary that keeps the vulnerable safe from the cruel. Family isn't just about blood or law or obligation. It's about who shows up when things are hard. That evening, we had dinner with the Aldens. Mrs. Alden had become an unlikely ally, her grandmotherly presence a balm to our kids as they missed their extended family. As we laughed at her stories and watched our children play with her grandchildren, I realized we weren't just surviving without our blood family. We were thriving. "You know what?" Alara asked as we walked home, our kids running ahead. "I think we're going to be okay." "We are," I replied, taking her hand. "We really are." 6 months later, we heard through our lawyer that Marcus and Karina had divorced. The details were messy, involving custody battles and more legal drama. Sauron had asked his school counselor if it would be possible to write to us when he turned 18. We saved that letter too, a promise of a future where children could choose their own family. Our grief support group became a second family. Our children blossomed, free from constant criticism. Alara and I grew stronger together, bonded by shared grief and shared courage. We learned that sometimes losing a family means finding your tribe. That protecting your children sometimes means teaching them that love has boundaries, and that honoring the dead often means standing up to the living. Lyra's memory lived on, not as a weapon to hurt us, but as a guiding light that showed us who deserved to walk with us into the future. In the end, the greatest gift our broken family could have given us was the clarity to see that family is defined by who treats you with compassion, respect, and love.